We are streaming now. Shit, forgot to do the countdown. 3, 2, 1. Thunder. Thunder can't hurt. Harmless noise. Bullshit. I am your host, Devin King, and tonight we are going to be talking about very quiet characters. Yeah. So the theme of this month's episode on Montage et Trois is silent leads or elliptical protagonists. Because they don't say much. So when you have their dialogue, that's the joke. Again, I'm your host, Devin King. Joining me tonight is, as ever, Daryl Ailes, cinematographer, um, dude, overall, really cool guy. He's been busting his buns working several projects as of late, but he managed to find some time to join us this. Welcome back.
Yeah, man, my bad about last month.
Hey, it's all
It
good. You've been
sucks, but I'm on the roll again now. We're
on
we're
the
we're
roll
good.
again,
We're good.
as we all are. And
Um,
joining us as ever is Mr. Beeson from down south. Not Australia, but elsewhere. Arkansas. Sorry, Arkansas. How you doing?
I'm committing to the bit. No,
Yes.
no, we're doing silent leads. I'm not going to talk on the podcast. Come on.
Fair enough.
Um,
It's ironic that we do an audio only show with like a nice banner that I make, but we're talking about lead protagonists that don't say much. I kept trying to think
no,
of so many
hey,
puns
I'm
to include. I was gonna rip off
well.
the Depeche Mode song "Enjoy the Silence," which actually I think might be the YouTube video name.
I thought
The
you were going
sound
with
of silence.
silent but deadly. I thought that was the original, or was that just too obvious?
I could have gone with "Do
The
you smell popcorn?"
the the s- the strong and silent type.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know. Hey, no, I'm doing well. I think the cat's out of the bag. We kind of alluded to this last month when we did our Pride episode, which Daryl was not there, unfortunately. He couldn't make it, but I was there. And we kind of alluded to this, but I think we can now finally say for sure I'm coming to Canada and I'm doing a movie. So,
Everyone run and
you,
hide. No, I'm kidding.
yeah, exactly. You guys are going to be stuck with me for real this time.
Oh no.
Uh,
I smelled
and
your foul
no,
stench once
I
you were
get
brought on
to
board.
be a part of an Orange Hat film production. So,
Woo!
man, this is a dream come true right here. I'm so excited to finally
Awesome.
meet you guys in person. I mean, we've been doing this podcast for what? How many years? We're finally going to meet in real life, and
Right.
Insane.
yeah, it's gonna be fucking crazy, and we're
Yeah.
so excited. And I'm gonna plug it. It's Painkiller. You can find us on Indiegogo. You got to fund my way up there so I can pester these guys for real. We're gonna make a kick-ass movie. We're so excited. I mean, come on.
Yeah. We have
And
several
we're almost
productions
halfway there. Like we're halfway there.
halfway
We
there,
just
living on a prayer. Let's do it,
got
guys.
to cross the finish
Please
line.
give us all your money, all your American
Exactly.
dollars, especially,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
the Canadian version's gonna kill it. But
Yeah, what like 1 USD is equal to like 1 more billion, I think,
Canadian
Canadian.
monopoly
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's monopoly money up here.
Hmm.
Oh, jeez. No, I'm doing well. But
Yeah.
hey,
Jokes
let's.
aside, I am very excited for all the productions that are this year. Gonna be one large interconnected project. Hopefully, we'll see how things roll out. I'm excited to see how it goes. Um,
And the man of the hour, the man behind this entire production. This is his birthday episode.
Yeah.
So happy birthday, buddy. I mean, come on.
Oh,
I
thanks,
mean, hey,
man.
this is so if you followed the podcast, this is something we do. Because back in February, I did my episode where we did Bertolucci's The Conformist, we did Buffalo 66, and Mike Lee's Naked. And
oh
that
boy,
was quite an episode.
that was a roller coaster ride of emotion. Um, Characters you want to be nothing like, but maybe relate to a little more than you can get. Which is a good thing because it makes you check yourself before you wreck yourself. Um,
But tonight, we're talking about the strong and silent types. What are the films on the agenda tonight, Devin? What films are we talking about?
So tonight we are looking at The Great Silence from 1968, directed by Sergio Corbucci, who you might know was the director of the original Django film that Django Unchained was heavily inspired by and based on. The lead actor, in fact, even Quentin's film. But yeah, I haven't seen too many other films by this director, but I did see Django after seeing Django Unchained, and I really enjoyed it. Um, and this, I think, is the only other Sergio film I've seen. Very excited to talk about that. After that, we're going to be at Only God Forgives, so jumping ahead quite a bit into the future. Uh, Mr. Nicolas Winding Refn. It's his masterpiece, or so he said. Um, and
More
then,
so than Citizen Kane, which we'll get into.
right, another strong silent type. Um, or anything but. And then following that is a film that has been on our slates for quite some time. Daryl has been pushing to talk about this film, and I'm glad we're finally doing so. And that'll be David Lowery's A Ghost Story from
Well, yeah,
2017.
that and Only God Forgives. It wasn't I as much as I do stand that movie, spoiler alert,
True.
like, I feel like those 2 movies for so long have felt like, well, yeah, there's a silent lead trilogy there somewhere, and it's been tossed around since, like, the earliest days of me in the podcast, so the fact
Absolutely.
that we could finally sit down and do it and honestly, yeah, I hadn't seen The Great Silence either, so I
Oh,
should probably
yeah.
throw that out there that it was just like, we just want kind of one fresh one for everyone, so it's not
True.
We
just, you know.
did. We threw around a bunch of different ideas. I know we talked about The Shape of Water at one point. We talked about Miss 45, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. We even talked about William Friedkin's Sorcerer, which I've kind of been pushing for a while. So, but we kind of settled on The Great Silence. I think the main reason was it's the only film out of all of these that has silence in the title, so we kind of had to.
No, it just fit, right? Like I felt a little remiss we didn't pick a silent film, but also it's kind of cheating. Like just because you don't hear the actors talk doesn't mean they're not talking, right? If it's a silent
Yeah,
film. But I felt like we had to pick something that wasn't from the 2010s just to balance it out. I always like to diversify these trilogies just so we cross a span of time with a similar theme, or we pick three very different flavors of movie, which I do think we've succeeded here. These are three very different types of films that just happen to have lead characters that don't say much for one reason or another. And I think it ended up being a really good roster.
and I think that's something that really quickly. I do think that's something that the podcast has really succeeded at overall. Is like I think about back when we reviewed like Elephant and Denis Villeneuve's Polytechnique and the Daily Wire school shooting movie.
Oh fuck! Don't remind me of those.
It's like no, it's just but it's like the perfect mixture of like just all different flavors of one very serious topic in a very lighthearted tone. And I think
Oh yeah,
that's what this show is about, right?
Totally.
indeed.
And I don't wanna be, like, too, blowing smoke up my own ass with this one too, but, like, I totally agree, man, like, there was something about like, I rarely will sit down and do a triple feature unless it's a drive-in or something like that, and just scheduling wise, like we kinda alluded to, I've been tight on it, and part of me was, like, wondering if I could, but, like, the longest movie of these 3 is an hour and 45 minutes. They all are, like, very like they're dense but digestible, and it was like such a cool flow. Like again, we'll get into it more as the podcast goes, but I really like the mixture of these three and what's kind of bubbled to the surface through
No,
them.
it really worked out,
Um,
and since doing this show, I've been really appreciating the shorter run times. Like 90 minutes is just mint for like runtime of a movie. For in this format, when you triple feature, like you could either have like three movies that are like an hour and a half, or you could have one Christopher Nolan movie. Um,
at a certain point, though, right?
yeah,
I feel
it's
like watching all three of these was still shorter than Justice League.
at some
You know?
point I'd like to review Satan Tango or Santiago. It's like this 7 hour Hungarian.
Well, I think we tossed around the idea for a while of like for something crazy like our 100th episode or whatever, we were going to review like it was something like every episode of Sense 8, every episode of Twin Peaks,
Oh
Like
fuck.
all of the directors, like Too Old to Die Young. That was the other one, and it was just going to be like this huge like trilogy of like all the series that our favorite auteurs had come up with, and it was. Looking back, I'm glad we didn't do that because that would have been impossible to cram in.
Because
A
yeah,
But
like
it was
24-hour straight
the,
podcast.
the, the the only time we reviewed
exactly.
like a show or anything super long form was when we did the Evangelion original show and then the rebuild films. Like those are definitely some time commitments to watch those. But and you kind of have to just center. There's so much to talk about in that particular anime, so you kind of just have to do a whole episode surrounding that. And yeah, so it's a lot of prep work to do those. But I thought it was worthwhile. It's definitely something you have to plan well in advance, which I'm kind of glad we're doing the show monthly now, rather than every week. That's
And
just
we'll also be announcing next month's episode at the end of this.
yes,
And
that'll be my
it's
birthday
it's
episode.
the doozy. I'll
Indeed.
say that.
All
Doozy
right.
indeed.
Well, without further ado, um, let's move on with this. So, on the air now, we have The Great Silence. Like I said earlier, this is from Sergio Corbucci, 1968. It is a revisionist spaghetti western film, um, and it was, I guess, an Italian-French co-production, which stars a lot of people. Jean-Louis Trintignant, I probably butchered that pronunciation. Uh, and this was a surprise to me. Klaus Kinski plays the antagonist in this film, and he's mostly known for working with Werner Herzog. And I've always seen like clips of him just behind the scenes, just like shouting Bloody Mary while Werner is just sort of sitting there listening and talking at. But it's interesting kind of seeing him work with a different director here as an antagonist in this film. Um, So, as the title implies, the lead character is mute, and that is revealed later on to be an injury that he sustained in his childhood. We'll get into more detail on that. But yeah, we added this film kind of last minute to this thing because the title just happened to fit, and for the most part, it just felt like your by the numbers kind of western from that time period. Uh, How we get up to the ending. Um, then damn, yeah, I don't know
Well,
how to
so
I don't know how to
Interesting.
I don't know how to introduce that
Well, no,
this
we
further,
don't
but
have
I
to
really
jump
did.
right into the ending right away. Like
No,
I do
fair
think
enough.
there's I wish I had seen this before The Hateful Eight because there's a
True.
lot of cool things that if I was seeing it for the first time I would get. Like, it's kind of doing the even kind of those The Thing vibes where it's just like, no, we're
Hmm.
gonna go out in the elements for a bit and like really capture it. It was a weird mix for me. Like, I really liked some of the earlier tableau scenes, kind of setting things up. Like the first act, I think, was actually pretty strong. And the
Hmm.
last act too, honestly.
Oh, for sure it was.
Um,
Yeah.
but like, it was a weird mix of quality. So visually, some shots were like perfect, and some were just like the most out of focus thing that
Oh
I'm
yeah, like
stunned ever past.
some of the zoom shots, and you can almost see the
Oh.
netting on on the front of the lens in the first
In
shot.
those earlier scenes? Yeah, yeah.
Did you see that? Like you could see the
Yeah, yeah.
texture of the netting. Like what were they using that for? Was that to bloom out the image? I don't think so. Or was that
Early
like a
ND techniques, I'm pretty sure. So,
that's what
like,
I'm
you might
thinking.
have,
Yeah.
like, you'd be netting the back of the lens probably, and you would need a really thick one to compensate for how bright those
Oh
whites
yeah.
were, right? So,
No, I
I'm f
think yeah, I think they literally just use like fish nets or some other thing on the back of the lens just to darken it because with like how bright the snow is with the sun, you really
yeah.
have to
well,
darken that image down.
I'm gonna jump in here,
For it.
and I'm gonna offer the first hot take of the night. I fucking love this movie.
Oh, big surprise. How's that a hot
Like,
take?
no, 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 no. Here's my thing. Okay, I you stole my thunder. You fucked me up.
Sorry, dude. Keep going, keep going.
Oh no, it's good. I'll get there. I fucking love this movie. I watched this movie. I'll be honest. I was kind of like you, Devin. I was like, where is this going? Because there's a couple of moments in it that I was kind of like, I don't want to say bored, But there were like a couple of moments where I was like, where is this going? Like, because
I'll
there's a
admit my
lot of
I'll admit my attention was divided, and I feel like I need to go back and rewatch some things just because
no,
I. Yep.
and I agree with that too. But like, there's something about this that like when it gets to that third act, it's like holy fuck! Like now it makes sense. Like this
Yeah.
whole movie has been building up to this. And any problems that I had with those first two acts, any problems that I had with the pacing or where the story kind of lulled or where I was unsure of where it was going or where I was maybe not as invested in these characters as I needed to be. By the time you get to that conclusion, I was like, holy shit, this is one of the best films I've seen in a God, I can't even remember it, but like this is to me, I would put this up there with like the Wild Bunch. This is
Damn.
really, and here's the thing: my girlfriend is not a fan of westerns, and I was trying to explain this to her because she didn't watch this one, but I was talking to her about it later, and I was like, as far as westerns go, this is like S plus plus tier, right?
I would agree with that.
The
I would
the
absolutely agree with that.
problem is
The technical
problem
stuff
is
holds me back a bit, man. But I
no,
agree,
hold
like
on, hold on.
plot
Here's
wise.
my thing though. If you don't fuck with westerns, that's meaningless, right? That's a meaningless metric.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's the best. It's one of the best of a very niche genre, and I don't know how many fans there are of like this kind of western or just westerns in general. But I love the subversion of this fucking like John Wayne, like everybody lives happily ever after and they ride off into the sunset and you get the girl and like all that shit. Like this is nasty. It's fucking brutal. I loved it.
No, like
Oh,
I'm not the biggest fan of westerns, but I did really like this because of how the story kind of built to the conclusion, which I don't want to, dig up too much yet. I feel like there's probably a little more to talk about,
we're
but
almost there. We're almost
it
there.
did kind of floor me, the ending, like just the way they committed to it. I'll say for
Yeah.
now, but
So
major spoilers going ahead. Um, but yeah, just the way the kind of story progressed when you find out more of his backstory about why he's a mute character. It's kind of interesting how, like, in the behind the scenes, the reason that they had the idea for a mute lead, when this one actor, who didn't really speak English wanted to, be in the role, and they were kind of creating something for it. But I like how it just stemmed from, well, this person doesn't speak the language, so how can we make that work? And then creating, this from that, I think is really cool.
Well, and
yeah,
it's
how
also
can you
of
work around
that
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's also of that like era, especially with like spaghetti westerns where we talked about like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's like
This is like,
all of these people, all of these people speak Italian, and all of these people speak Spanish, and Clint Eastwood speaks English, and like everybody just does their lines, and we'll dub over it if we need to.
sure,
Fuck it.
that's
Like,
it's
Fine.
definitely
And
very of that era, which is always kind of confusing because I had two versions that I was watching. One was an Italian dub, one was the English dub. Um, I was kind of bouncing back between them to see which one holds up better. But it's like you can tell in both cases they're both very clearly dubbed over. But that's just a
yeah.
technical limitation from the time and how these films were
well,
made. So that comes with the
yeah,
territory.
these pretty much were your silent film. Like when you were referencing at the start, like, oh, we should have had a silent film. Like they didn't record a lick of audio on set
Oh
for
yeah,
this
it's
movie.
it's
Like
all
they,
it's all ADR, absolutely.
no, like 200%. And like I know most spaghetti westerns lean that way, but like when you're talking about some of the better ones, like some of the bigger sequences would have a little. Regardless of that, I kind of agree with you, man, Steve. Like in a way, like it's a little different. Like I'm really westerns are like country music. Like the good songs are so fucking good, and then the weak
Yeah.
ones are just you can't stand them.
They're just not your
But with
thing.
this film, to kind of finish up my earlier thought too, like it's kind of just the dichotomy for me. Like some shots are like gorgeous. So that's why when like the bad ones come up, I'm like, oh shit, like what a weird mix, or like some weird blocking or something they did on the first take. But for me, the thing that brings it all the way around, and I know Jamara kind of got me onto this early enough that I kind of appreciated it, was fucking Ennio Morricone, man.
Oh
Like
yeah.
this score is the film. Like it's so
Oh,
like
absolutely.
it's it takes it to another level. So like I feel like in like you're saying, like for me it's like S tier. It's not SSS plus tier. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah,
if it
no, and
if
I
it
get
if
that,
it
and that's
cleaned up those
fair.
things, maybe, but that's me being, we'll get into that more when we get to a ghost story and how me being a cinematographer affects some of the viewing experiences on a certain some of
Sure.
these.
Like,
But
there's definitely some
totally agree.
shots that are that are like very rough around the edges, and as like a cinematographer or someone that is keen on cameras, it can be a little cringe. But part of it also is that I can imagine myself in that space because of some of those rougher kind of takes that they have.
Well,
A
Yeah,
lot of the
yeah.
zooms, especially, which I think got better as the film went on. Like you can tell that they thought very clearly what the
and
composition will be when it's zoomed in versus zoomed out, and there was a
and
very clear
I'll
direction
make
to that.
I'll make this argument. I honestly feel like some of the kind of idiosyncrasies when it comes to like what you guys are talking about, the technical stuff, like I honestly feel like that kind of adds to its charm in a weird way.
That's what I was getting at. That it does kind of add to the charm. Those rough around the edges kind of mistakes that would take most people out of the film, but me, when I see that, I'm familiar with that type of hiccup with where it's not quite in focus. I can imagine myself there, more so because of that
Okay.
in an odd way.
And I agree with you guys. I'll just say that there's an extra amount of them throughout this film. Like I'm good with a couple like hiccups. Like I like when it feels like kind of lived in, like you're saying. There's just a
And
fair amount, and
and
that's
I
it,
will
man. I
say that
loved it still.
and
Like I
and
really dug this film.
we'll get into this later, but I'm not like a super fan of like the like I don't know. I've always resonated with stuff like this more than I do like the super polished art house stuff. Like I really fuck with this like lived in style, like you're talking about, Daryl. And I totally get where you're coming from, but also like I feel like I prefer this kind of stuff. Like you know what I mean? Like there's this charm to it and this like I don't know, man. It's just there's something about this that like it's this certain spirit of filmmaking that we really don't see anymore. And it's just like, fuck it, let's make a movie. Like, let's go out here. It doesn't matter that we don't live in fucking Utah. We're gonna go in the middle of Spain with a bunch of Italians, and we're gonna make a western. Like, you know, fuck it, why not? You know,
I
and
mean,
for
I
them
thought
to
that was Utah. I could have
like,
been fooled.
no,
I
but
mean,
for them to convincingly do this with the limitations that they had, I mean, that is fucking punk rock. Like
Totally.
that's
absolutely,
awesome.
I agree with that.
Okay, so we got to get into the ending now. I think we've kind of chewed as
Yeah.
much around
Again,
the meat that we can. So I'll let you
major
guys go wild
spoilers,
because you're foaming at
but
the mouth.
holy shit, yeah. The silence gets fucking slaughtered, and same with everybody else. And damn, it's like I felt something for the protagonist,
Well,
and like,
so really quickly, I had the ending spoiled for me because in trying
oh
to
no,
find this movie, well,
Ooh.
okay, but hold on. So I knew that Silence was gonna die. Like that didn't surprise me.
I did not know that. But anyway, go
Well,
ahead.
okay, but in trying to find this movie online, the spoiler came up. What I didn't foresee happening was immediately after he dies, there's a young woman, and it's actually the woman who hires him to go after these outlaws. And over the course of the film, you find out the history that he has with these outlaws and why he's doing this. And she runs over to his body and she grabs the gun and she holds it up to fire like she's going to avenge him. And the bad guy kills her.
Two.
That fucking blew my mind. I could like the like I don't know, even having the fact that the main character, that the protagonist like fails at his mission, just having that little segment of the movie spoiled still couldn't prepare me for the fact that like everybody in the fucking town gets slaughtered.
No,
Like,
damn, yeah, I was gonna say this walked so the COD fucking airport slaughter sequence could run. Like
Oh
literally, it's
God.
just like traumatizing the
Or
same.
come and see.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like I did not think
it's
they'd do that in
so
'68.
fucking brutal. And there's like this complete and total just like nonchalantness to it that they're like, yeah, we just killed all the men and women in the town, but yeah, we'll come get the bodies later, whatever. Like, it's like,
Well,
whoa.
I mean, that's the
Whoa.
whole message of the end of the film, right? I mean, for anyone that might have seen it that didn't see the or understand the translation at the end,
Yeah,
like the
they
end
didn't have
credits.
it captioned for me. What did that say, or what was the gist of it?
Oh, you don't even know. So basically, they're saying like is like like based on like a real quote unquote massacre that happened near the end of this civil era, and like because of this horrific massacre, the amnesty got passed
Damn.
because like it kind of like pushed it was so it's like an
Well,
iconic like Alamo kind of moment, right?
Wow.
well, and
But hyper dramatized.
I also think too this was right around the time that like Malcolm X was assassinated and
Yes,
Che
it mentioned
Guevara
that. Yeah,
was
yeah.
assassinated. And so it's like these kind of radical outlaws were gunned down, and that was something Corbucci kind of wanted to play around with because it was so topical at the time.
Damn.
Like who's like imagine being in the theater in '68. That would have been so shocking. Like you would not be prepared for that. At least like even like how you're saying, like even having that bit spoiled, like just somebody being like, "Oh, cool, a winter western. Let's check that out." Just horrifying come the end,
Which
man. Like
No,
it's
and
so.
like no, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, the bad guy shoots the good guy at the end. Okay, I mean, sure, that's a little bit of a downer. That I'm a little salty. I got that spoiled. But the fucking entire town, in graphic detail, the men, the women, just fucking slaughtered and so indiscriminately and so just like nonchalantly. Again, like I come back to that, it's just like so matter of fact. It's like one of the only times where the film isn't this kind of like super stylized Tarantino-esque, thing. Like it's very just matter of fact, and it's like that's fucking mind blowing.
no, and
Yeah, you're right. It
it was
almost
really
fits filming
refreshing.
style too, right?
Yeah.
It does kind of like dip into a documentary, like kind of like how you're saying. Sorry, go on, Devin.
Yeah, it gets a lot more stripped down, and it's just sort of like in the moment. Just yeah, this is just another guy getting gunned down, like all the other characters that we've seen up to the matter that he's been the protagonist. He doesn't have plot
It,
armor. Unlike the happy ending, um, where he
Oh
would at
my
least
god,
he's
can we talk about that for a minute?
which
What the fuck, man? What
so
the fuck?
there's actually a few alternate endings. There's the ending that we saw is the intended ending. But as you can imagine, the producers that were funding the film were not too happy with this bleak outcome of the protagonist. So Sergio was obliged to make a happy ending, which basically turns it into your regular John Wayne kind of TV serial where yeah, the good guys are saved and everyone's fine, and isn't that great? Um,
But it's also
well,
so bad. There's no blood. Everyone like you can tell has no intention of ever like
no, it's
having
like
audiences see
and
it.
the guy that saved him, didn't he die early on? And they're kind of revealing that he somehow survived. Like it barely works, but
No, yeah, he swam. He does mention that he'll probably never come up again. There's a
right.
like they leave it half
True.
vague, but
So there's the happy ending, which we saw the alternative, and
well,
then
okay,
there's an ambiguous ending, which kind of tries to split the difference between the two, but and
I
it kind
haven't
of
seen the ambiguous one. What?
apparently, and this is just what I'm reading on
Oh.
Wikipedia, that there's a happy ending and there's an ambiguous ending, um, but this is kind of lesser known. It just kind of like half commits to it, but leaves the fate of the things a little less known.
so okay, so really quickly, Devin, I love you, man, but I think you're losing something here when you're talking about the happy ending.
What am I losing?
Because okay, so the the fucking reveal. So really quickly, for context, there's a whole thing where you find out that one of the characters that this guy has a past with, that Silence has like this sort of has dealt with him before. They have this backstory where he shot off the guy's fingers,
Right.
and
Yes.
so in the happy ending, they reveal that Silence was prepared that this guy was going to shoot his fingers this time.
Right.
So
Yes.
he's wearing this like a medieval
Yeah,
Gauntlet.
prosthetic thing
The fucking
to
straight out
like
of Army of
shield his
Darkness.
hand, and it's so fucking goofy looking. I
which
mean,
it's funny because that's kind of inspired by the sheet plate that Clint Eastwood had in A Fistful of Dollars, right? Uh,
yeah,
very literal plot armor. Um,
Also, how would it have saved him from getting his hand roasted? Because metal's conductive, so it would have actually made it much worse. But we're not
yes.
going to talk about that.
Well,
No, dude,
I
you're
mean,
totally right. Like, it's
it's so
shambles of an ending.
silly,
Yeah.
like, and it was never going to see the light of day. I mean,
It
it
did in a
feels
few
like,
countries, though. Apparently, like
oh,
that's how it's
man,
available, is because I guess it there's reels of it around, right? But it's
wow.
sad. Imagine going to the theater and seeing that, like the build up to that, and then just fucking. I can't even, man.
yeah.
Yeah, Devin, I posted. I don't know if you saw it. It's in the Discord if you want to read the
Oh yes.
actual.
So I'll read this out loud. The massacres of 1898, the year of the Great Blizzard, finally brought forth fierce public condemnation of the bounty killers who, under the guise of false legality, made violent murder a profitable way of life. Many years there was a clapboard sign at Snow Hill which carried this legend: "Men's boots can kick up the dust of this place for 1,000 years, but nothing men can ever do will wipe out the blood stains of the poor folk who fell here." Damn. Yeah, that is how you end a movie. But
And things were so poetic
But
before
how do
the atom
we
bomb.
end a review, Devin? What are our ratings?
oh man, I mean, I thought that this was a really solid film. I will have to watch it again because my attention was unfortunately a bit divided when I watched it. I was again jumping between versions of it would work out best, but it really floored me with that ending. I think the progression of it just really started to come together, make that happen. Um, I can give this a solid 8.
I I'm I feel like this is maybe recency bias, but I don't care because I was so fucking floored by this movie. I absolutely loved it. Uh, like a 10 out of 10.
Damn.
I yo, this is gonna be a good episode. So I just want to raise one more point before I give my rating because I just
Shoot.
realized I was closing everything up. Um, there's something about having a silent lead that I just want to touch on with this movie that I think it does actually put a lot of pressure on the villain of the film. I don't know if it could have stood as well if this guy wasn't like a very unique mix of completely fucking hateable and like kind of sensible. Like I really like his how his idea in the end is like I just won't do the thing. He only shoots in self-defense. Like it's just he outthought the guy. And like I think the performance of this guy, I know you mentioned him from some other stuff. I think this might be the first thing I've ever seen that's really all him, but him kind of like carrying the lead and like being almost like this villain lead that we're getting most of the stuff filtered through. He really carried the weight. Because he's probably what I'm gonna remember a bit more than Skarnek, as sad as it sounds.
No,
Um
sure. Klaus Kinski
also
absolutely stole the show whenever he was
yeah.
on camera. He
And
just
it's
has
actually
this.
And
really,
I'm
really,
oh,
really quickly.
yeah.
It is funny. I just had a friend of mine loan me the box set of Werner Herzog films. And so I'm going to go back and look through this guy's filmography because I now have a Blu-ray copy of A Gear: The Wrath of God
God
and
damn.
Klaus Kinski. Like, yeah, so I feel like I have to now.
I, I,
Do it.
that's been on my list forever. I gotta watch it. I've
Yeah.
studying Herzog forever, and that's been on my list for the long time.
Anyway, Daryl,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, with that said, I'm going to split the difference actually between you two happenstancely. This is a 9 out of 10 for me, man. Like I
Nice.
do think that it just like it really hit me in all the right ways. And just held back that little bit because Ballad of Buster Scruggs did it in 15 minutes. You know.
Well, this
Sorry, I'm just fucking
silence watch so that Special Struts could run.
bingo.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. Like that. Wow. I'm glad when I watched it, I was wondering if one of us might just really despise the film, but that was
Well,
that
I
was
was
a good
wondering if you
turnout.
were gonna lowball it with a 6.9 rating, but I guess that'll come up later. Maybe we'll see.
Ooh, if
We'll
I do,
see.
it's gonna hurt. Yeah,
Uh,
somebody won't be
moving
happy about it.
on, it's time for Nicholas Winding Refn's masterpiece. Now, okay, so really quickly, I do want to kind of segue this into when we did an episode called Drive Fast, Eat Ass. And
Which
this
one?
has
There
been
was
a
two of
running.
I
them.
think I was gonna say we did
There was
too.
two.
Well, there was two of them, right? There was Drive Fast, Eat Ass, and then Drive Too Fast to Eat Ass. We haven't done Tokyo Drift yet, but um, but on one of those episodes we did, it was like Taxi Driver and Drive and Lost Highway. Okay,
There was
and we were
Cars too.
I may be confusing the two episodes.
Yeah,
At
no.
any rate, one of the episodes we talked about Drive and Lost Highway. And I remember making the statement on the episode. I love Lost Highway. I think it's a phenomenal film, but I can't give it like a perfect 10 out of 10 because Mulholland Drive exists. And
Very true.
Mulholland Drive is like the fully realized version of what David Lynch was kind of playing with in Lost Highway. And I
See that.
remember, Daryl, you said that's how you felt about Drive and Only God Forgives.
Yes.
So,
I mean,
with that in mind, we're going to talk about Only God Forgives. This is a 2013 slow burn action crime drama. I mean, action in quotation marks. Shot
Hey,
on
Steve.
location.
You want to fight?
Shot shot on location in Bangkok, Thailand. The film stars Kristen Scott Thomas, literally me, Ryan Gosling. This was made like a couple years after Drive. Drive was 2011. This was 2013. It is dedicated to the memory of Alejandro Jodorowsky. The
R.I.P.
film competed for the Palme d'Or, but was booed at cons. Like the reaction to this was fucking visceral. People walked out, were throwing shit at the screen. They hated this movie. Ryan Gosling says 17 lines in the entire fucking movie.
one of them is you want to fight.
One of them is, do you want to fight? And not even do you want to fight.
And then they have the Stranger
Wanna fight
Things
about
theme
it?
play.
I'm not.
Yeah, dude, you
I'm
caught that
not
too.
your.
Jamara was like, "What the hell is Stranger Things happening right now?"
I'm not your buddy,
I'm
guy.
pretty sure this predates that, but it's that same. I was trying to replicate it because I had like my virtual synths open while I was watching the movie, and I was trying to find the exact like. It's basically just an arpeggiator turned on like a really kind of low synth, and then they just kind of
I'm like a bounce pattern, yeah.
change the cutoff, and it just kind of goes up and down this one chord. But it's just like the Stranger Things theme. It's a different key, I think, though. But
Yeah, it comes in with a different sting that feels very
it's
weird.
a fucking cool soundtrack, though. I do dig it. Like that, I remember seeing
Dude,
the
so
trailer
good.
when they first were like releasing it, and it was just these like cool lingering shots. You had that I think they call it bisexual lighting now, although it might have a different kind of system. Just the red and the blue lighting with that fucking and
I'm
I
pretty
just I was just hooked right away. But I didn't see it at the time when it came out. But I just really dug the trailer, and I did finally pick it up on Blu-ray years later for like $1. Um,
Yeah, dude, my copy was like $10, and I think I got it like soon after it came out.
dang.
Yeah, fucking the score though, Cliff Martinez, like that's who did this, right? Cliff, he also did Spring Breakers.
Oh, did he? Damn.
I
I can
might
see
be
it.
misremembering that.
There was such like a neon theme happening in like the 2010s. In
He
Spring
was good at
Breakers and
that.
this, it was good. Yeah.
Okay, but like I feel like you mentioned the cast and you didn't mention the standout of the like the real core of the movie is I can't sorry if I butcher it, but Vithea Pansigram.
No, so
Instagram.
I was not even gonna try it, and thank you for being
No,
a braver man
dude,
than
I
I.
will because he fucking deserves it. Like he like upon especially watching the behind the scenes for this, which I feel like I never really did. I mean, they're not that great. If you want to see the real behind the scenes, you got to watch My Life directed by Nicolas Winding Refn.
Or just watch the review with him and William Friedkin.
Yeah, that's the
Interview.
distilled version. Yeah. But no, like honestly, his character is so fucking good in this, and like I really I mean, I don't want to go too far. Wait, are we? Yeah, we're kind of into it now.
Spoilers.
Oh
Yeah,
no, not
spoilers.
spoilery. Just like fucking taking over for a sec, because like for me on this rewatch, I think I kind of figured it out that like the guise of the film is that this is the drive thing where he's a more quiet lead, but he is the lead and he's kind of the steadfast and does bad things, but he's kind of relatable. This one, he's just a fucking villain, and like they're doing a lot to kind of explain his backstory and his surrounding family and like his upbringing and all that, but like Gosling was the villain this time. Like you have an actual cop who, like, while sure he might be taking things in his own hands, he's actually serving a pretty even fucking like like scale of justice. Like I think throughout the film, there's you know
Well,
apt payments due to apt people, and as much as that's sure illegal and whatnot, I think that's the kind of movie this is, right? Like he is the cop that we're following. Like look at the ending scene. The ending scene always kind of perplexed me. Not going to spoil what it is, but just it's focused on him, and it kind of made me realize on this rewatch that I kind of started seeing it from that perspective, and in that regard, it does kind of start to sway more masterpiecey for me, because like fuck, that's a great guise to sell the movie on. Like, and that explains the booze and whatnot. But regardless, I waffled long enough now.
is it that he's the villain necessarily, or is that his like upbringing is villainous and he's kind of morally conflicted in that? I don't know, but
Well, sure,
it's
I
but he's the
don't
blank
know that
slate.
I
Like
would
when she says,
because
agree.
like, "Why don't you stand?" When
I have to say this is one of the most evil kind of Oedipus complex films I've seen.
well, it's only
I
called "Only God Forgives" because you can't call it Oedipus the movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know that I agree that Gosling is the villain. Like, and I'm not just saying that for like the literally me memes. I'm
Take
not.
it
I
off.
promise. Like,
Take it
no, no,
off.
That was a
no,
bit
no.
sus, not
Here,
gonna lie.
here, okay, no. He's emotionally stunted. He's got some really fucking, bizarre sexual hangups, sure, but I don't know. To me, and I have an interpretation of this film, but I don't know, like, if we want to get into
No, we
spoilers.
all do, and we should, because I think this, like unlike most movies, this is such a blank slate. Like, I think a lot of people bring a lot to the film to fill in the blanks, and like maybe that's what I felt this time, right? So like, I feel like we all should have, like, I mean, if you have one, Devin, like, I'd love to get out some like little, bullet point fucking
Sure.
overall, but like interpretations, because like I'd love to know what you actually think.
I
You
mean,
know,
I feel like he's trying to grow outside of his upbringing to an extent. Like when you meet his mother, it really explains a lot because she's like the most villainous Karen I've ever met. Um, and there's definitely a lot of troubling things in their
So
background,
it is
and
like,
he
so really quickly, the Kristen Scott Thomas performance. It is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is that like too American of a reference? Because
a little bit.
okay, all right. There's a politician who in America like kind of reminds me of this character, very scary, blonde-haired white woman. And I'll just kind of leave it at that.
She,
But
she
like,
she literally asked to see the manager.
first
yeah, no,
scene,
literally,
first thing.
First scene.
not so subtle, but like, no, sorry, Devin, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Just throwing that out there.
No, fair enough. But yeah, there might be some commentary with some American politician there. I mean, there's a lot of commentary here with American culture in a nutshell, I'm sure. But
And this
mostly I
is me
just
in a nutshell. Oh no,
fair
I'm in a
enough.
nutshell.
No, it sounded a little more muffled than that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And a little smaller because nutshells are pretty small. You're getting way off track, Jesus Christ. Um, but yeah, I see Gosling being more conflicted because while I mean, he's been in this drug trade for a while. There's lots of scenes where he has these like sexual hangups, and you can tell it's a very psychological. Like he maybe imagines mother in like dark corners of the room when it's, trying to get it on with this prostitute. Um, or I'm not sure if that's what she was. But especially with like the conversation between mother and the girl that he brings on the date, just super uncomfortable, and it really
Oh, May.
fuck.
May
It,
is her name.
May, yes, that's her name. Gonna be May, yeah, yeah. Anyway, um,
Um, well, I mean, kind of off what you're saying, I have a little bit different interpretation of those events. Like, I feel
yep.
like they're sure piecemeal and like kind of assembled in the way that kind of like you're saying, it flows like that story wise. But I think like it maybe this is a known thing. Maybe I don't know. I don't look into the behind the scenes for this one because I really do like it. But my interpretation, but like the whole anything with that crazy wallpaper is like his subconscious and his interpretation of
Hmm.
his own trauma, his own past. Like that's how he can kind of walk through these scenes in this dreamlike way that, at first I was like, whoa, this is just fucked up an art house. And then on a rewatch, I was like, no, like I feel like just this chunk of the movie is a very like literal metaphorical everything's jumbled kind of like what kind of bubbles to the surface. Like there's tons of weird Oedipus shit, there's like his own interpretations of his relationship with this girl, and then there's like out of nowhere a fair few scenes where there's just like completely fucking normal lighting and nothing's hyper, and like it feels like no, these are actual events we're seeing. So like I think there is kind of like two layers to this movie.
Yep.
And again, is that like the known theory about this one? I don't know. That's kind of how I've
Maybe.
always
No,
seen
So
it.
here's
I had a feeling there, and then there are lots of scenes where he kind of sees this guy before he encounters him. It's like he imagines his hands getting like severed. Maybe that's like karma kind of coming around the corner that he feels like that
so that's
it's
Like the
that's
premonition of
movie
actually
takes
sorts.
place the moment he gets his oh well, spoiler. Yeah, we already spoiled. Warning. Like the
so
movie takes
okay.
place in the moment his hands get cut off at the end. You're saying like it's almost
Something like
like
that.
a
So
yeah.
really quickly, I think my interpretation of this is kind of going off what Devin said, where it's like it's a karmic thing because there's all this discussion of like he killed his father with his bare hand. And if you guys remember, there's the whole scene with Kristen Scott Thomas character. She makes some kind of like deal with this Australian gangster who's gonna go hunt down these guys, and it ends very poorly for him. But they kind of like reiterate this whole like biblical sort of like eye for an eye thing. And I
Hmm.
think the film, like being called Only God Forgives, I feel like this character is supposed to represent God in a metaphorical sense. Is that right? Metaphorical? I guess
The
I don't know.
the antagonist in the
Metaphysical,
film is like God.
metaphysical.
Yeah,
Like an allegorical. That's what I'm looking for.
allegorical.
Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking
it's one of the illicals, one of the isms.
exactly. So no, that's my interpretation of it. And I think when they're talking about like eye for an eye, and you had ears to hear but you didn't listen. Like I think that's what Gosling is imagining, and it's this like sort of like weird, surrealist kind of thing where it's like by having his hands removed, he's like cleansed of the guilt that he feels for murdering his father with his bare hands.
Hmm.
Like, and so, and I think in a way, like it is about fighting God, like this
True.
like inner demon, and like trying to atone for the sins of your past, and in a literal sense.
Yeah, but see, to me, that would just scream like the most. I mean, logical if you can even bring that into it. But like the most logical way to go from there would be like the the whole chunks I'm talking about would almost be like limbo post like death, like 'cause all of them, like we're saying, there's an aspect of being aware that this is coming. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm. It's
I feel
foreshadowing. There's
like
lots of foreshadowing where he sort of foresees that his hands will get severed by this guy.
Which
Uh,
is God and justice and right and wrong. Like I'm kind of
yeah,
I'm on the same boat with you guys, right? Like I feel like I was just saying before that like the actor for me was standing out because like he
Oh
brought
no,
that, right? But
he's
no, I
phenomenal.
totally see that same kind of like there's tons of religious and
yeah.
mythological allegories throughout, right?
And he made it all under budget too, which is really something.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty bare
Mhm.
bones. I think that's why he sees this as like maybe it's not just like oh a masterpiece of a film, but like his masterpiece is maybe the specification there, right? Like kind of like if I could just get into the fucking thing you mentioned at the beginning, like I feel with Drive he was held back in a sense, like he did want to make this action movie, he did want to serve the masses, but like he it's almost like he felt earned after Drive to make
Mhm.
something this slow, this patient, this fucking like this visually forward, even more than Drive. Like I feel like there's a lot going on with like the match shots and the like I'm saying different set designs and like I feel like doing all this, keeping it on a low budget, like you know the bare bones aspects of the films help, but like there's still like he goes out like there's still like a gun down chase scene that's filmed pretty cool. I know Jamar was shouting out like just the touches of like when the guy's running away in the chase scene, like you have the one with flip flops and it's the sloppy ass running versus like the calm, cool, collected run of the fucking clip clops of the cop, and like it does something to do just like aesthetics sometimes that can say a lot more than just heavy dialogue scenes and whatnot. But you kind of have to go full in. You know what I mean? I think that's what I'm trying to say with
I
this.
feel
So
like
in
my
that regard,
I hear
I
you.
feel like my only issue with this film, and I think why I prefer Drive. I don't. Well, I think people will say like Drive is more accessible, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like I don't think that makes Drive any less. I think that there's something to be said for the fact that like I will throw on Drive and have a good time with it every single time that I watch it. Whereas Only God Forgives, I kind of have to be in the right mood. Like I noticed with this watch, it's so deliberately paced. And I think I noticed it more on this watch than I did before. Like there's kind of like these moments where I'm like, I'm waiting for the next cool thing that I remembered happening to happen, right?
Well,
And so I don't necessarily agree that like being surrealistic or being, allegorical or whatever, like I don't know that that necessarily makes it a better movie. I
actually,
think
you
it
know what?
makes it a different movie.
It's different, and I was more engaged on this viewing than I was on the first viewing. Like I was pretty engaged on the first viewing, but this one I saw more in it, and like the foreshadowing didn't stand out to me as meaningful on the first viewing as it did in this one. Like I saw more in it this time, and I was
yeah.
even more pulled in by it didn't feel slow to me at all this time watching it. Like it felt deliberately paced, but it didn't feel like I was waiting for something to happen. It's like I'm anticipating things more on this viewing.
Yeah, 100%. I gotta agree with Devin, and in turn, kind of disagreeing with Steve there, just
Well,
because like,
but that's just subjective in how in terms of how I felt. But
no, yeah,
I saw more in it this time, and I was anticipating certain things to happen because I kind of knew the trajectory of it, and I was noticing more of the visual metaphors and the more of the allegorical stuff on this viewing than I did on the first viewing because I didn't know what exactly what it was building to on the first viewing. But this time I knew where it was going, and I was able to pick up on certain things this
No,
time.
and I do want to say like I'm a huge fan of Refn, and this is by no means a bad film, but to me it's like
It's not his masterpiece, as he would
no,
like to
I
say.
to me like if
no,
if
but I see how he
Drive is
thinks.
if
Hmm.
if Drive is like S tier, I think this is like solid low A, high B.
Fair enough.
Like
So,
I think it's almost there, and I would say it's about a step or two up from Valhalla Rising. Is kind of where
uh,
I'm at with it.
See,
we've been kind of joking in passing. We've been referencing this interview between him and William Friedkin, where Refn is sort of jokingly saying that like his masterpiece, and I guess it was only 4 years after the film came out, and Friedkin is like, 4 years isn't even a blip. It's not even like a pimple on the asshole of humanity, which is a great line. But it's been a little more time now. It's been like 10 years since it came out, and I do think it does hold up. Um, even more so than it
Well,
did.
so you also have to like for some context, like because he also says like if that's a masterpiece, what's Citizen Kane? And Refn is like, well, that's great, but my movie.
Well,
And so I think
it was all very tongue
so.
in cheek. I'm pretty sure. Like
No,
he
and
was
that's
joking.
no, and I think that's also something that's kind of what I was getting into because there's an interview that Friedkin did very early in his career, where he interviewed like Fritz Lang, I think it was,
Yep.
and he's kind of like the young hotshot, cocky kid, and so I think Refn was kind of throwing that back at him and like trying to get a reaction out of him.
Oh
So
yeah.
I don't know how much of Refn I can even take seriously in that interview because it does feel like he's kind of trolling him a couple of times.
He's a bit of a troll, man. It
He
Yeah.
is no, and I fucking love Refn, and I love this film. It's just I don't know that I love it. You know what I mean? Like
That's fair.
Interesting.
I
Yep.
love it because it's Refn, and I love it but it's not my favorite. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Well,
What's your
I
favorite
mean,
Bronson?
Uh, no, I will say this. I fucking loved. I wouldn't say loved. I really liked elements of Neon Demon. That's one that I think is due for a rewatch.
yeah,
I
Neon Demon's on about the same level as Drive for me. Like I think he
no no
peeled back. He got no, yeah, totally, because he got too much hate for going too far into that realm. So he pulled back a little bit and landed right about where Drive is. Yeah, man, it's good, but fuck, man, he's just obsessed with holes in stomachs, isn't he? Fucking
Oh
well. So
God.
really
I
quickly,
was gonna bring that up at some point.
that was actually Gosling's idea. That was improvised on set. So from what I had read, like Refn asked Gosling, like, you just saw your mother die. What would you want to do in this situation? Like, what's your first thought? And Gosling said, I would want to crawl back in the womb.
yeah, that's
And
what I
that's
thought.
where this came from, which is also funny because, like, going back to Neon Demon, the whole
I haven't seen Neon
without
Demon,
spoiling,
by the way.
We
without
can't.
spoiling anything, there's a scene involving Jenna Malone, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But that
We
was
all
her
do.
idea as well.
Well, shit.
He just well, I mean, when you're in the Nicholas Winding Ref playground, you might as well fucking play.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Just improvised C-section scene. God damn, we're getting on the same trajectory that we did last year. We had like 5 movies with abortions in them, at least. There was way too many.
Whoa! There's no abortions in this movie,
Uh,
Traveler. Okay.
no, but we're not that far off either.
Only a man killing his own father and being jealous of his brother's cock size his whole life, apparently. You know what I mean?
God
It's
damn.
it's playing it safe. You
I
know?
mean, who's
No.
trying comparisons? I mean, she's the one that brought it up, so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
really weird the way she does that. But
it's
again, everything that woman says is weird. She drops the N word in the weirdest way, and it's
no.
uncomfortable. She's just a very
She
hateable
also
character.
so Ryan Gosling says something to her like, "Hey, this has got all fucked up. Like it's more complicated than you think. My brother, raped and murdered a 16-year-old." Which I mean, he doesn't
But he
say
had
it
his
in that many
reasons.
words,
Yeah,
but
I'm sure he had his reasons. Like the second she said that,
yeah,
I
no, but
lost
that's
any empathy for this character.
yeah, no, she's a terrible, fucking awful person, and she also she backstabs fucking Gosling in the end of it. Like, I mean, just and kudos to Kristen Scott Thomas. I mean, what a
He
fucking
does it well.
phenomenal performance.
Totally,
Oh
totally.
yeah. I mean, she's probably the most hateable character I've seen since Nurse Ratched. Um,
Well, and this is for all of the nitpicks that I have with this film, I'd rather watch this Kristen Scott Thomas movie than the other one we talked about on the podcast.
wait, which
The
other one did she
English
do?
Patient.
Oh yeah. I mean that I don't know if that one was as bad as were painting it. It just wasn't. It just wasn't the vibe.
No, you're right. It was worse. Um,
It's like an Oscar-nominated movie. I don't know how we all came to
yeah.
like just.
Jesus Christ.
I think it even won like that year, but it's just like we just were not
Ah.
connecting
Horrible.
with it. So yeah.
I will say really quickly, there is one thing that I love about Refn, and I've talked about this with other filmmakers. And specifically, Refn does something that I've always tried to emulate in my own work. And like, I've noticed this trend with other filmmakers where it's like they're not doing this. But Refn is the kind of guy who is like absolutely wearing his influences on his sleeves. And when I
Hmm.
watch a Refn movie, I always get the impression like this is absolutely the kind of guy who watches the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and like Suspira and all of those fucking like 70s grindhouse movies and is not in the least bit ashamed by it. And like whether or not he's elevating it or taking it to another level or trying to do something like put a new spin on an old story, like he has an absolute love and passion for the kinds of films that he wants to make, and I respect the hell out of that.
Absolutely.
I respect the commitment to it and just the unashamedness of it all. You know. Um. On that note, do we have anything else? Fucking only God forgives. Rate it.
I do think it's a solid movie, but I agree it's definitely one you have to be in the mood for. It's not just one you casually pop on a Friday night and put on popcorn like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this this Oedipus Complex movie
Yeah, I've
with
never
neon
done
lighting.
that before.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do think it's a solid film. I don't know if it's his masterpiece. I would say, but I do think it's a pretty solid film for what it is, for what it's going for. I do think it mostly accomplishes what it was set out for. Um, Man, I feel like it'd be boring just to give it another 8. Um, so I'll just give it a 6.9, just for the laughs.
Oh, boo. It's
Boo.
gonna take a real hit. Okay, well that's fine because I really do connect with this movie. I don't know what there is about it. I feel very called out by Devin. I have just been like, hey, I want to throw this on. Like I'm again wearing my own influences on my sleeve a bit tonight. Cause fuck man, this is one of my favorite like shot films in general. Like I said, this kind of got me onto slow pace stuff and it's not, it, it- if there's anything that holds the film back, it isn't the cinematography. It's constantly firing at full tilt and like doing exactly what it needs to do. Huge shout outs to Larry Smith. He also shot fucking Eyes Wide Shut. I don't know how that never came up.
Ooh,
Um,
Jesus.
damn.
Wow.
That
yeah, and
that
like
makes a lot
not
of
much
sense
else.
now.
It's
Okay,
really
this is a 10
weird.
out of 10 now.
There
Just
we
for
go.
that
No.
fact.
Um, no, but that's what I mean. Like, I think working with a professional and like kind of again, maybe I'll touch on this a little bit going into it, but I feel like you can almost feel like this dude had worked with Kubrick before. So coming in and getting all these requests, like he executed exactly how he needed to. And I say this because Winding Rift can, from what I've seen, be pretty hard to work with on set, in a technical sense. But man, like it really pulls through, and I gotta give this a 9.5 because it's always been up there. Something has resonated with me. Like you're saying, like at the time, sure, it was that 4 year thing, but like God knows how long it's been since this came out now. And I feel like when I rewatched it last night, it hit me as well, okay, ever since the second watch, it hit me as hard as, ever. And
Damn.
yeah, so I fucking climbing on up with a 9.5.
And I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10.
Solid.
That's fair. I feel like you might have given it an extra 0.5 because of how low Devin ranked, but fair.
No, 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 and that's something I was gonna say. Like, I don't want you guys to get the impression that I don't love this movie because I do. It's just like it's a heavy fucking movie, and it's like I feel like Drive has this like I don't know, maybe it's like nostalgia, but it's also like it's just there's this kind of like I don't know. It's hard to explain, but like I feel like
There's a rewatchability to it that this film doesn't quite
yeah,
have, but but when you're in the right mood for it, it absolutely hits.
yeah, no, and it's still. I mean, it's beautifully shot. The performances are great. The music's fucking great. It's by one of my favorite working directors. Like, it's a good movie. It's great, and that's why I'm giving it an 8.
Solid.
A grade 8.
Great A.
Okay,
Exactly.
in before Steve has to dip out randomly before we start up next.
Whoopsie. No,
Shit, I gotta
Daryl.
introduce this one. Fuck.
Here's okay. Really quickly before we get into this,
Yeah.
I want you to know I watched this entire movie all the way through. Didn't even check my phone once. I gave this the most fair shot that I possibly could.
Wow.
So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
How
Like
charitable of you.
I
Anyway, go.
commit. No, 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 no. I
Yeah,
committed.
that's
I
not,
committed.
the
No, no, no,
fucking
no, no,
calm
no, no.
before the
I'm
storm at
just
all.
saying. I'm just saying. Fucking. I committed to this. I knew it was gonna test my
You
patience.
gave it the
I
college
felt.
try.
I did.
I
I
only
did.
nodded off once. It was a good time.
No, no. I'm just saying.
I woke up and some guy was fucking rambling on. No, yeah, so fuck. Okay. I mean, I was gonna do a whole proper introduction to this, but I feel like we've already been fucking running late, so I'm just gonna wing it. Okay, so A Ghost Story, man. I always wanted this one on the podcast for a while. You can maybe tell that from the way the conversation went leading into this. But yeah, man, I've been sitting on if I want to say some statements that you can't really take back. But
Do it.
I think for this place and this time, especially with where I'm at in my life, since I've seen this, this is fuck. I mean, it's in my top 5 films of all time. I think it's struck
Wow.
me very hard as a chord, and I know it doesn't hit that way for other people. I've come to that fact over the years. I know. I've had many conversations with people who literally went to this thinking they were seeing a fucking paranormal activity movie. Yeah, no, you're gonna fucking hate it. And by all means, whatever. All I'm gonna say is that this is for having so few lines of dialogue and having so much be on the viewer, and have so much be in the hands of the cinematographer. I think that like it created the perfect little mix that is, it hits every check mark for Daryl, and I completely understand that many people out there might not like it. Hell, I mean, just pretty little anecdote. The director made this movie with extra money from his paycheck from Disney, which should always be the thing that independent
Hmm.
filmmakers do when they get paid from Disney. This movie cost 100 grand to make, 100 grand. It made 16 million, so it made 15 something times its budget. So like, even in terms of modest whatever, like he literally made this film because he thought it was gonna fail. He thought it was just a thought experiment that could like, what, I'm ready to lose this money. I think that is the mindset somebody has to go in to make something like this, and that's my
True. No, I think it's good that it was very economical in terms of money. I was waiting for someone to pitch in with the "Who gives a shit" line when I said that. The guy forgives that he made it under budget. Who gives a shit? But no, honestly, I thought it's been on my list for the longest time, and it was about the type of movie I expected it to be. I didn't expect one of the main characters. So spoiler alert. So this is a film about a couple who are seemingly haunted by a ghost, but spoiler, the ghost was the husband the whole time, or the boyfriend rather. I'm not sure if they were married or not. This couple, but I thought it was a very emotional, evocative story. I really connected with it and how this character is really just unable to express what he wanted to when he was alive, and you just see these kind of lingering passing moments, and you're sort of just feeling kind of the emotions that this character would be scenario. You really feel the time passing, the kind of powerlessness that he has from his vantage point to do what he wanted in life, because it was cut short, fortunately. And I just love how you kind of see time passing. Like you see this house kind of get not built up, but lived in by several people and destroyed. And with the housing market today, you really feel that you really feel the
Yeah.
pain of that. Just like, oh my God, that's like a perfect house to move in. Jesus Christ. But yeah, I really was affected by this film. I think in the way that it intended, where you really do feel kind of the passage of time and sort of how these people's souls kind of carry on in your life, and or kind of get attached to a place because something was unresolved their time on Earth. So they feel like they have to spend as much time haunting as and to get some sense of resolve. But that's just kind of my initial take.
No,
Um,
definitely, man. And time, I like that you hit on time already because I feel like that if we could probably do a whole podcast alone on just this movie and time and
mm.
like how he plays with it, how he uses it, how it affects humans, how it affects different living beings, how this universe functions. I could go either way. Okay, so
So Steven, I'm
please,
very
by
eager.
all
At what
means,
point?
Steve. Yeah.
At what point did this movie lose you?
Um, yeah, I mean, hey, I like I said, I watched the whole thing. I didn't even fast forward once.
Wow, you,
So,
you you hit the bare minimum requirement. Good for you.
no, no. I mean, no, and I mean, I know this is funny, but like I have seen in researching this movie, like there's a lot of people who fucking dipped out during the pie scene. And I know it's bare minimum for the podcast, but like I do want to kind of pat myself on the back here because there's a lot of fucking people who didn't make it through it. No, it was okay. It
Woo,
I
jeez.
think I
Whew.
think here's
Yeah,
my thing. All right,
I just posted a GIF. This is Steven watching the movie.
here's my thing. I feel like this movie for me kind of hit a weird middle of the road because like on one hand I kind of like the idea that it's playing with of like, oh, how time is this kind of like interconnected thing and like it's all this kind of like circular motion, and in a weird way it almost reminded me of Gaspar Noé's Enter the Void.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
But
absolutely.
that to me is a film that I think realizes this better. And now, there's budget and there's scale and there's all kinds of different variables going on between these two films. But I feel like this film either needed to like it has this weird like surrealist kind of like time loop thing going on, and then it also has this like kind of grounded kind of like drama thing of like suburban kitchen sink realism, and I don't know that this film marries those two concepts in a way that resonates with me. I feel like they're actually in opposition to each other.
Do you think it
And
over
Can I
relied on
argue?
certain
Oh,
aspects? Like, do you think it over relied on kind of like a vague, um,
I, I
what's the
think
word I'm going for?
I mean
What
I
was it
think
too
my
light
problem
on plot for your taste, would you say?
I think that's part of it. I think the other thing is like if these characters had like just a little more personality to them. Like I feel like and I mean I guess that's kind of the point that like they're kind of like blank slates and they're supposed to be like to where the audience can kind of like paint their own picture, right? But it's like I feel like the emotional weight of like the pie scene, right? Like that grief that she feels and that unedited 6 minutes of her just like gorging her feelings. I feel like that might have hit a little better if I was more invested in them as characters. If I had more to kind of anchor
If
them in some kind of
if you were
reality.
literally eating the pie with her, do you think you would have felt more involved in the scene?
No,
I,
no,
I,
no.
I will say this. You sound just like my parents when I was watching the movie. So I was watching it with them, and they were
Fuck.
They they would kind of comment
Jesus.
when something didn't happen for a while, and it kind of took me out of it. Where I was like in the movie, but it's
Yeah.
like just the extra commentary of them just like when something didn't happen, like trying to
Right.
get it.
Well, and
I'm trying to
And
feel
okay,
something.
can I just have like why that works for me in terms of what you were
sure, and
saying,
I mean,
Steve?
I have
Yep.
another thought about this, but go ahead.
So to me, I think that's reflective of a higher, this is so hard for me to get out, like universal perception, like in terms of how how the, like, okay, worst reference with Marvel and shit, but there's like a quantum realm. Actually, there is a quantum realm
Yes.
where things function differently than they do in, like, say, our level versus how they do on a cosmic sense. And I think this is where they all meet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that is our grounded real experience in life, is what we kind of, like, to what Devin was saying, it's kind of only ever what we make it to be, and I think it's kind of confining in that sense, that we don't realize and could never realize until the scope of the cosmos is, opened up to you, right? Like, things function differently, and that's why this time loop stuff is beyond what they can even do. It's almost like, I haven't really seen Primer, but it feels like Primer in a way of, like, how
Ooh,
things are
yes.
already happening that you don't realize, have, like, it's all one, like, that's
One
it's a way
And
to
1000%.
actually
I
show
recommend that movie.
multiple.
and
It's been heavily recommended. Good to note of this, Shane, who did Upstream Color, and that was very influential in the editing of this movie and pushing Lowery to step away from it. It had a bit more of a structure. Like, I don't want to give away too much of it, but basically, like, the montagey stuff near the end where we actually start to learn more about them and get more of their conversations, like that, when it starts to get quick cutty, like that's the
Mm-hmm.
second time through that he's watching. And the beginning stuff was actually like all one huge beginning thing. It was like, peel out from space, and then we're with this couple, and we spend time with the couple, and the guy dies. Like, it's like you're kind of what you're kind of wanting, Steve. Like, it had a bit more structure to it and safety in that way. But then the guy from Primer kind of pushed him to just be like, nah, like, be like, dip into the surreal of this. And I think that's when
well,
it
and
starts to
no,
take over,
it's
right? Like, it's our
no, but
journey from
see,
this plane
I
to the
don't.
next, and
But see,
showing
that's
that.
my thing, though, is I don't know that it needs more structure. I think it either needs to be all the way surreal or all the way structured, and I don't think the structure and the surrealism works together. I
No,
think
but
that's
that's
my
what I'm saying.
biggest.
That's life, right? Like, you have these two different elements. Like, we have our own world we're obsessed with, and then there's a greater cosmos that exists beyond what we can
No,
understand. And those two
and
things
I
don't
get that, and
actually meet, but they are representative of each. You know what I mean?
no,
Like, it's not supposed
and
to
that's
mesh.
kind of okay, but that's kind of where I'm referencing like Enter the Void too. Like Enter the Void is, I think, a film that marries those two ideas, and like I think I kind of agree. Like I posted this in the chat, but like the Chris Stuckman review, where he's like, let's grind the film to a halt and like explain to the audience this is what's going on, and it's like,
Nah. I actually, it's funny you bring that up. Me and Jamar got in a whole conversation about that earlier today because you just posted all those links today. So, dude, here's the thing. If you take that out, it's a fucking house of cards. And here's the thing. If it was like, say he just wandered through the city and came upon this, like, it's his house. Like, this group of people has happened upon him. Like, structurally, it makes perfect sense for these things to happen. Like time, and like how you're saying, it almost does grind to a halt because nothing of interest. He's literally going through centuries in the blink of an eye. And this single moment has relevance to. And I think, well, a lot of people think that might be spoon feeding. I think that's the only thing that kind of like, can ground us enough to get into that third act. And like,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have those ideas not super fresh in your mind, but just somebody to sit you down and say, like, yeah, there's this death, but like, far beyond all of this, like, when the bones decay and life resets, and like, I think, sure, it's long-winded, and sure, it's not quite the vibe of the rest of the movie, but to me, that's why I like that it grinds to a halt.
but do you think the whole monologue? I mean, I'm curious to hear
I
your
love
thoughts
the
on it.
monologue.
No, okay, but like, do you think it's a nihilistic monologue? Do you think that the point of that monologue is essentially that like life is meaningless and why even bother? Right?
No, well, okay, glass empty, glass half full. I think what he's
Yeah,
trying to say is life isn't meaning, or life is meaningless in a cosmic sense. That's why if this is all we have the moment. That's why it happens at a party, because that's the essence of what we think of these fragments of moments, and like so many of them are those times with friends, with people, having a conversation that might stick with you for years to come. And fucking as much as like that rhymes with the fucking tune that will exist far beyond our own lifespans, like this idea that like art is there with it, like we discover it, like we discover math almost, like
yeah,
that concept to me, it needs to be posturized, because without it I think we would actually be dwelling way into more what you're talking about, where it is like so vapidly thin, that doesn't sound right, but so like microscopically thin in like substance, like you need something to kind of remind us who we are after all this time being a ghost, and like free us from the house soon after,
true.
but
And
again, it's
it's like
fine
one
that it
of
doesn't
those.
work for you. I'm not trying to like sit you down and be like you have to love it. I'm just explaining why like the things you're raising as like nitpicks are part of the reason why this puts it into my top 10, because I like those palettes being played with.
I love
That's
seeing
all I'm
these
saying.
fragments of moments and just that he's observing them, and you sort of piece together the kind of meaning that he's deriving from all this, like this experience. And I love the ghost next door even, and how they have a different bed sheet, and
Oh,
and just seeing when they eventually went, like I don't think they're coming back, and then it just deflates. So that was the saddest moment to me in the movie. Just like, oh man,
ooh,
and
that's a fun one. Saddest moment in the movie. Okay, we'll come back to that after.
but I mean, there's some competing moments for sure, but I like how he's like scratching at the wall trying to get to the note for the longest time, and he keeps getting interrupted. Um, I'm still not sure how I feel about the fact again, spoiler alerts, we never find out what it actually says, but it was enough for him to feel kind of like it was all worthwhile for him. Like it just might have been like a little "I love you" note. It's kind of up to interpretation what that meant. It reminds me a little bit of Mother, when we don't hear the poetry that the guy. Spoilers for that movie, that we never hear the poetry that the guy writes. You just sort of get the feeling of like the feeling it evokes visually, which is kind of
No,
interesting.
and I love Mother, and Mother is another film that I think kind of plays with these similar ideas in a way that's more visually interesting and
More up
narratively
your alley.
compelling for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mother's god awful, but yeah, I
Yeah,
feel
I
you.
mean, no, and that's fine. Like, you know, I mean, I get it. I'm just saying, like, there's something about this film specifically, and it reminds me kind of like when we talked about Baby Driver. Like, it's like I feel like I've seen these kind of things explored in a way that's like more compelling for me personally,
So,
and that's
I don't know if I have,
that's
man.
so
Like
Steven,
2001
I
is
just
the
have
only
a
thing that.
question for you. And and I'm not singling you out, but I am just curious. There are certain films that you kind of have an idea going in whether or not you might enjoy it. Like I remember when you were first posting that you started to watch the movie, you wrote "God help me." So I'm wondering
I,
how much of the film met that expectation that you had going in, and how much of an open
well,
mind
Well,
do
he
you
said it
feel
was
you went
okay,
in with
so it
it?
must have swayed him.
So
Like
so
it,
so
no,
yeah,
I
to
mean,
get an okay out of
I like
two,
that
that's
you landed
huge.
somewhere in the middle and you didn't completely just confirm biases or whatnot. But I am wondering
no,
how much of that, how much of that does taints your kind of experience
well,
or influences
okay.
it rather.
Here's my thing though. Like, this isn't my first David Lowery film, right?
Right.
Like,
Saw the Green
I've
Knight.
gone on record and I've been like, the Green Knight didn't work for me.
Hmm.
So, based on like things that I've read about this and my own experience watching the Green Knight, I was a little hesitant going into this. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the sort of like "God help me" thing. I mean, that was clearly a joke, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
but
but it does
and it's
illustrate kind of your mindset a little bit going into it.
And I
no,
mean,
but it's
if
not
you're
like a completely uninformed opinion, though, right?
True.
Like, I do have experience with this director's other work, and I didn't really resonate with that. So when you read, hey, this one might be even more indulgent, you're like, oh, well, what am I going to think of this, right? Like, and that's more or less where I was coming from. It was,
Okay,
it
so
was a little.
that's another word you just use, indulgent, and that's how you would kind of describe this type of film.
Well,
I
This type
think
of
it
thing.
Green
is.
Knight
I
is
think it's
One
indulgent.
could
This
very.
one's not. This one's restrained, man. Like half the
I'm
shots don't
saying one
move.
could also use the same word to describe Nicolas Winding Refn's work, especially Only God Forgives. That's his
No, no,
most
and that's
indulgent film.
Yeah.
no, and that's fine. And I've gone on record, talking about how much I love Lars von Trier and how much I love S. Craig Zahler. Those are filmmakers that are incredibly self-indulgent, that have a very specific
And
style. And
Vincent
I've
Gallo.
also no, well, okay, I love Buffalo '66. I haven't seen his other stuff, but
Not yet. Well, yes.
but later. But my thing is, and I've also gone on record, and I've been like, look, I get it, right? Like, if you don't fuck with Lars von Trier or S. Craig Zahler, those are very specific directors, and they're making very specific films. And if
Mhm.
you don't resonate with that, it's not like, at the end of the day, like, I get it. For all of the reasons that I love it,
True.
I also understand why someone wouldn't. And
Mhm.
so the one thing that I can say about David Lowery, from what little experience I have with his work so far, is that he is making films that are very specific. And I will say, for better or worse, we need people like David Lowery. Even if I don't fuck with his style specifically, I would rather have 10 ghost stories, even though I don't like them, if it means we get one uncut gems, which I fucking love, right?
Fair enough.
Because we're living in an age where, and especially with the writer's strike and the actor's strike going on, like right now, all the fucking blockbuster franchise bullshit, it's so formulaic and derivative. And so we need people who are trying to think out of the box.
Yeah, and
And that's one thing.
I love that
That's one thing.
the big franchise films are kind of bombing in some respects because it leaves more room for films like this to come out of the light. And I agree that we
Right.
should give more funding to films like this. Please get on his Patreon or his Indie Dojo campaign so we can get more indie films out there.
Yes.
Shameless
No,
plug
but
for our
Okay,
project.
but
yeah,
regardless,
shameless plug, right? Go support Painkiller by Stephen Beeson. No, but like, no, but that's the thing, right? Like, and I said the same fucking thing about Alex Garland's Men. Okay, that's a terrible fucking movie. It's absolutely atrocious. It was one of the worst movies I saw last year, in my opinion. Right? But for better or worse, the things that I thought were absolutely fucking terrible about that movie were 100% Alex Garland or Alec Garland, right? Like, that is an auteur vision. I didn't fuck with it, but it's still his vision. And I respect that. And as someone who kind of considers themselves an auteur too, certainly not to that level yet, hopefully, like, I respect it.
Fair enough. It's good to kind of separate kind of personal biases from the merits that a film has, and I like that we are able to have these discussions to kind of separate those out and kind of see the film for what artistic merit it serves, and then just compare each other's perspective on it, right? That's exactly what
yeah.
this show is for.
And
No, and
like I'd say that like I feel like what you're talking about, that discourse is also, fairly unwarranted if you're like half into the film. Like I think it's easy to say, oh, there's a 6-minute scene of a girl eating a pie, but it's much different when it's I mean, like hell, it's a lot more relatable of a moment and a lot more digestible of a moment than most
oh,
would ever say.
geez.
No,
No,
but like
I do
literally,
agree.
because I think like the overwhelming grief. I feel like everybody's lost somebody close to them, and you hit that point. Like
There's
they die, you don't want to eat. You go a long time, you won't eat.
it,
Somebody close to you is like, you have to eat, and then you just like the second food touches your mouth, you realize, holy fuck, I haven't eaten in 3 days.
and
And
you
then
just
you eat
overeat,
like
yeah.
you've never. Yeah, like I feel like that course of events, it's there is actually some. It's not like a shot of water sitting on a counter for 6 minutes.
No, like
Like there's
it
actual
absolutely makes narrative
progress.
sense. Like it's a bold
Yeah,
decision to do it all in one unbroken take. A lot of other
two
directors or
takes.
writers would call that shoe leather, but it does serve a purpose in this film where they are really letting you feel the stretch of time as you would as a ghost. Um, but also, this is just a kind of a random segue, but it does remind me of my favorite untranslatable German word, and that's Kummerspeck, which literally translates to grief bacon, but it basically is exactly that. It's like
Eating grief. Yeah.
it's overeating when feeling grief or when feeling emotional distress, and I just love it. It's next to Schadenfreude for my favorite untranslatable German word, Kummerspeck. But
Love it.
yeah, that was the Kummerspeck shot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, on the upside, I mean, if I was making a movie with Casey Affleck, I'd probably want to put a sheet over his head too. So
Okay,
Oh,
that's funny.
dude, there's some random fucking amounts of special effects in this. You know how he's covered in tattoos, right?
Yes.
no, I actually
They
didn't know that.
Yeah, well, he's got lots of tattoos. All those walking around topless shots had to fucking be removals.
I was
They
wondering
didn't.
why his skin looked smoother than usual. That is
Yeah, dude,
interesting.
that whole
And
sequence, man. And
and I
like
It's
will
it's like did
say,
did they buff up his muscles in post? That's what I thought at first.
no, I think he was probably just at like, oh, it's a fucking shirtless scene. Fucking
and
work
I
at it.
will
But
say, I
the
mean, I
weird
feel like
texture.
there's something kind of dishonest to market this as like, oh, it's $100,000 and you can do this too, right?
Well,
Like
nobody said
this
you
is
can do this too.
no.
It's how
But
you
what I'm
use
saying, like,
$100,000 that's impressive. Like
well,
it's not
but
like he
okay,
didn't pay
but
Weta. You have to pay
this is
Weta.
also like this. No, but this is also coming from someone like this isn't a fucking like Kevin Smith situation, right? This is like someone who was already a part of the industry. Like this, they had worked for Disney. They had just gotten off of a $4 million film, and they called in a bunch of favors,
A
right?
$40
Like,
million
and I
film.
think
Yeah.
that's where that's one thing I did want to kind of like touch on really quickly is like seeing this film pop up on like lists of like most impressive low budget films, like that kind of feels a little dishonest, but that's not on the film or the filmmakers, like that's just, whatever.
It's
Yeah,
framing, sure.
I totally disagree with you there. That is that is against the nature of filmmaking, I'd say. No, dude, you take everything you can and you take it for as cheap as possible. There's
No,
nothing
and
wrong
I
about saying it cost that much. Like they still got paid. They just took SAG minimum, which is a great thing, and you've earned that by doing all those other things you've talked about.
but it's
That is
not
why
okay,
it.
but it's in a different, it's in a totally different realm. Like you
No, it's
can't
not.
put this, no, I mean you can't
There
put
were.
this in the same like ballpark as like something like Clerks,
It's not a
right? Or
it's not a
something like
feature
Evil
debut.
Dead.
You can say
Yeah,
that. Like he's
yeah.
had
In that regard,
experience and
totally.
he's had work before and he's worked for Disney, yes.
But
But
that's not the
it
list. It's a low budget list, and
it
who
still
used the
it
money
still
best.
shows what someone with experience can do with this money. And it becomes a challenge for anybody that's in the budget game to take lessons from it. Like, yes, this person's on another level and they've had experience with higher budgets before, but at the end of the day, this was made for $100,000, and there's a lot you can learn from that, regardless of your
Yeah,
level of experience.
and like it's earned, dude. Like I feel like they when you have to deal with a house, like the things they're trying to achieve, right? Like they did it smartly. They found two houses that were due to be condemned that worked with their size, their like rough
Oh,
look. Like some of those shots at the end where it's like really decrepit are actually from the pre-shoot,
I
like
was
where the
actually I
walls
was
are
actually
torn
wondering
up.
about that. Like,
And
I was wondering if they use like a
yeah.
pre-condemned house,
So
because like
exactly.
that's a lot of
So all
money to
they had to
waste on
pay
a house.
was like a basically enough, it was just a little bit of money to the owner so that they could get in, film their stuff, let them know when they're done. Then they put a crash cam inside to get that shot of the bulldozer coming in.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like it's about the achievements, man. Like you got to give credit. Like if a normal studio did this movie, they would have bought the house, spent twice what the budget of the whole movie was on the location. How does that help anyone in the world, right? Like they
Mhm.
were pragmatic. They did this. He got paid, sure, but what he did with that money, like, dude, people make fucking $1 million films up here. Like the fucking, I mean, there's in Hollywood North, $1 million is literally nothing. and they could make what I do actually will say fully out there, consider to be a straight up fucking masterpiece for 100 grand. Like to me, that's what makes it. And sure, like if you're talking about a list of like up and coming startup lowest shut, sure. But if you're talking about how somebody used money, this is a master class. Like they cut every corner that could be cut without cutting any quality.
Right.
That should be studied,
Even the
and like
film,
but
even the
only
corners
that.
of the film are rounded off. But anyway.
Literally, they cut every single corner.
But no, it's
I don't
I
know,
do think
man.
there's a
I
lot
mean,
to learn from the frugal budget. I feel a lot better knowing that the house is going to be condemned anyway. It's like when
Yep,
I found out the
and
cow
it
and
wasn't functional, right? So
it's
no
like when I found
water,
out the
no.
cow in Come and See already had cancer. No
Oof.
spoilers for that film, but
Um,
yeah,
yeah, no, it changes things a little bit when you know that,
a
right?
little bit. But
And like,
regardless what you feel of the film, there's a lot to learn about how they use their budget for sure,
and
most
even just
efficiently.
getting the ghost right, like you guys mentioned before, the vanishing thing. Like they just brought in fucking magicians to do the vanishing girl trick. That's all that is. It's like
Yep,
literally just
and
a very known magician trick, and he's
it
actually
could be seen
the
like a cheap gimmick to just use a cloth, but it just works, right?
But here's the pragmatic part. He all like the magician who they brought in for that plays the pioneer dad. Like you gotta
Ooh,
think like that when you're
interesting.
doing these kind of movies, right? Like you gotta be like, where could these things overlap and how could you reach this point? Like think about it, even with a normal studio film, like they shot a lot of the ghost stuff alone because he actually was in a different frame rate
Oh,
to
interesting.
make the look work. Like they struggled for so many weeks with the early shoots because they couldn't get the ghost to work. It ended up being like 5 fucking petticoats and like a tiny little like hula hoop thing almost around his waist, and like then filming it in a different frame rate and match cutting. Like just to figure that out, a normal studio would have probably sunk, a good $50,000-$70,000 into research. And instead, you're actually getting a finished product. And I think that is the big important thing and why it will end up on those lists, because like you have to acknowledge how like it's a side of filmmaking people don't ever really want to talk about, but I think us
Hmm.
as independent filmmakers ourselves, like that's the thing that's fucking astounding about all of this. Like call in every favor, do the passion project that you think might fail, and then A24 picks it up when you premiere at Sundance. Like this wasn't destined to be a movie that fucks with people and wants to, make people walk out for the pie scene. It was just an experiment that grew, and I think that's kind of the magic of. And again, I totally understand, Steve. Like you were saying before, it's not your flavor. I'm sure if this was like Winding Ref we were talking about, who pulled off 100 grand with, calling in 3 favors from some huge names. Like for all we know, he did fucking Only God Forgives
well,
for the craziest low
Sure.
amount, right?
Yes,
Like
Steven, this is
no,
your
and I
you
cue to
mean,
can't
quote Friedkin
discredit
now.
that, right? Yeah.
well, no, I mean, and also, I mean, Friedkin did do like I think he did do Bronson for like 300,000. Um, but no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is like there's just like I just keep coming back to like this is just and the God, the response to this film is so divided. Like I don't
It's
like
not
I
very. Most of the reviews you posted were pretty positive. Here's the issue with this. The people who hate this movie didn't go out and make reviews. So I know what you mean anecdotally, but when I went looking, it was actually really hard to find negative ones.
It's
but
like
see, here's the
either
thing.
you
This
loved
is
it or
one of
you put it
those
to sleep and forgot
Bingo,
about it.
bingo. Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. But this
Turn
is
it
also
off, never
one of the
remember.
movies. This is like one of those movies that I kind of hate to review because you kind of like. I feel like there's this pressure to where like if you didn't like it or love it, you didn't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's this kind of like there's this importance that has kind of been imposed upon it that maybe admittedly colored my interpretation of it. And like
Fair
having
enough.
a bad
It's like the
experience with
it's like the double-edged sword of over hyping or over recommending something. Because
well, but it's also like if you speak out against it and you're like, this really didn't work for me. I kind of thought it was kind of bland. Like I've seen this idea of like time, you know, differently in ways that were more compelling to me. Like it almost feels like you're going completely against the grain, right? Like you're painting this huge fucking scarlet letter on your back, right?
fair enough.
And
Well,
it's just
Something that I do admire from you, Stephen, is that you will be honest with your thoughts on it, regardless, and I do appreciate that at the very least.
No, and
You are, yeah.
no, and that's I mean, I'm like a modern Pauline Kael. I don't know.
It's like
No,
you're a buzzkill with merit.
exactly.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's let all the air out of the room. I'm giving this a 4 out of 10. I'm sorry, guys. I really tried. I mean, I admire the technicality and I admire the craftsmanship. I just could not get behind this film. And I really tried. I gave it an earnest effort. I don't know. There's something about this. I feel like if I had something to anchor these characters to, they're so like, I don't know. That's kind of my piece. That's where I'm at.
All right. You just felt like you got ghosted by the film, eh?
Oh,
I was gonna try to put in some kind of phantom plot, uh, pun in there, might work out. I really like this film. There's a lot of stuff that I felt like I missed on the first viewing. There was definitely some shots that kind of lingered, but that was quite intentional, I do believe. I definitely have to see it again just to try to make sense of all of what happened with the time stuff, because that really threw me for a loop first time watching it. But I did really resonate with it still, regardless of my confusion. Um, I didn't really give a 6.9 rating. I guess I jokingly did earlier, but I changed it. I would give this film a solid 8 viewing. It does
Oh,
match my sensibilities, um, regardless. Anyway, so I really enjoyed it for what it is.
oh yeah. And mine's an easy 10 out of 10. Probably given away that by this point, but
Right on.
yeah.
Well then, that was a really interesting episode.
it was indeed. And before we go into complete silence, next month we're really going to be self-indulgent.
Oh
That's
yeah, it's
right. It's a realist self-indulgent. We're going to be talking about Beau is Afraid,
oh yeah,
Synecdoche, New York, and Vincent Gallo's The Brown Bunny.
god
This
damn.
should be a fun, completely non-controversial episode, and there might even be a chance that we could record it live in person since I'm coming to Canada again.
God damn.
Just throwing that out there. We could do our first ever live montage à trois.
Yeah, it would
So,
have to be sometime in some morning, whenever we're not shooting. But yeah, I mean,
Streaming
it's
live to
when's your
Pornhub.
possible.
I mean Twitch. Montage.
Oh, well, it's been fun, and it's almost it has certainly been more fun than the fun we're gonna have talking about the brown bunny. Uh,
It's been real.
oh,
It's been fun, but was it all real fun?
happy birthday, Daryl! This has been a
Oh
great
yeah,
episode.
always a pleasure to put you through pain.
Absolutely. Hey, I
Yeah,
made
man.
That's
Devin sit through 5 hours of Nymphomaniac, so I was kind of due.
there's the
Uh,
Schadenfreude there for you.
Right.
good night, everybody.
Stay
Peace.
tuned for Conan.